The boy was already running when the voice came. Stop! His feet dug into the dust, sandals scraping stone. His chest burned. His heart hammered like it wanted to jump out of him. He did not turn around at first. He knew that voice. Everyone in the village knew that voice. It was the voice of a prophet. Slowly, the boy turned. The sun was high. The air was hot. The prophet stood there, tall and still, his eyes sharp, his face serious. He did not shout. He did not move closer. He only looked at the boy as if he could see straight through his bones. You have one chance, the prophet said quietly. The boy swallowed. One chance for what? The prophet's voice was heavy. To choose who you will be. The boy was silent. Somewhere behind him, the road led to the city. Music waited there. Friends waited there. Freedom waited there. Or so he thought. The prophet lifted his staff and pointed behind the boy. If you take one more step that way, he said, your life will not end the way you think. The boy laughed, but his laugh shook. You always say things like that. The prophet's eyes did not blink. God sent me this time. The wind passed between them. Dust swirled. What does God want from me? The boy asked. The prophet stepped closer. He wants your heart. The boy's face tightened. God already has my prayers. The prophet shook his head slowly. God does not want your words. He wants your obedience. The boy looked away. He was tired of hearing that word. Obedience. Rules. Waiting. Being told no. I'm not a child anymore, he said. The prophet's voice softened. That is why this moment matters. Silence stretched between them. The boy's fingers clenched. His thoughts raced. He wanted to be important. He wanted to be seen. He wanted more than his small house, more than his father's tired eyes, more than his mother's quiet prayers at night. What happens if I don't listen? The boy asked. The prophet answered without fear. God will let you choose. The boy frowned. That's it. Yes, the prophet said. That is always it. The boy looked again toward the city road. He imagined laughter, gold, power, a life where no one told him what to do. He took one step. The prophet did not move. Then the boy stopped. Something strange happened in his chest. It was not fear. It was not guilt. It felt like being watched by someone who loved him too much to force him. One chance, the boy whispered. The prophet nodded. One. The boy closed his eyes. And in that moment, heaven leaned in. Because this was not just about a boy. This was about what happens when God gives a human one chance and waits. The boy's name was Eliab. He was not born special. He was not the strongest. He was not the smartest. He was not the firstborn. He was not a priest's son. He was not a king's son. He was just a boy who wanted more. His father was a farmer who worked until his back bent. His mother prayed every morning before sunrise. Eliab grew up hearing stories of Abraham, Moses, David, and Samuel. Stories about men who listened when God spoke. Eliab liked the stories, but he liked the parts about victory, not obedience. When he was younger, he obeyed easily. But as he grew older, his heart grew louder. He wanted his own story. The city promised that. The prophet stepped back. I will leave now, he said. If God truly matters to you, you will know what to do. Wait, Eliab said quickly. If I choose God, what happens? The prophet smiled sadly. That depends on you. And if I choose myself? The prophet's smile faded. That depends on God. The prophet turned and walked away, his staff tapping the ground, each step sounding like a drumbeat inside Eliab's head. Eliab stood alone. He looked left. He looked right. He remembered his mother's voice. God sees you even when no one else does. He remembered his father's voice. A man is not strong because he runs. He is strong because he stays. Eliab clenched his fists. I don't want a small life, he whispered. The wind answered nothing. Slowly, Eliab turned toward home. That night, he could not sleep. He stared at the ceiling. The shadows moved as the oil lamp flickered. His mother slept nearby. His father breathed deeply after a long day. Eliab sat up. God, he whispered, feeling foolish. If you're real, say something. Silence. He lay back down, angry. Fine, he muttered. I'll decide myself. Morning came. Eliab did not tell anyone he was leaving. He packed bread. He took a small bag of coins he had saved. He stood at the door while his parents slept. His hand touched the door frame. Just one chance, he whispered to himself. And then he stepped outside. The road to the city was longer than he expected. The sun burned his neck. His feet ached, but his heart was excited. When he reached the city gates, his eyes widened. Tall walls, loud voices, bright cloth, shouting sellers, laughing men, music in the air. This is it, he said, smiling. Days passed. Eliab found work quickly. He was strong. He was fast. People noticed him. He earned money. He bought better clothes. He made friends who laughed loud and drank late. You don't talk like a farmer, one man said to him one night. Eliab grinned. Because I'm not one anymore. He stopped praying. Not because he hated God, but because he didn't want to listen. Weeks turned into months. Eliab climbed higher. He learned how the city worked. Who to flatter. Who to avoid. Who to use. He liked the way people looked at him now. One night, as he counted coins in his room, a knock came. He opened the door. A stranger stood there, dressed well, smiling slowly. I've been watching you, the man said. Eliab raised an eyebrow. Watching me do what? Choosing yourself, the man replied. Something cold moved through Eliab's chest. Who are you? He asked. The man stepped inside without asking. Someone who helps people like you. Eliab laughed nervously. I don't need help. The man's smile widened. Everyone who says that does. He leaned closer. I can give you more than this. Power. Influence. A name people fear. Eliab's heart raced. What do you want? The man's eyes darkened. Just one thing. Eliab swallowed. What? Your loyalty. Outside, thunder rolled. Eliab hesitated. Somewhere far away, a prophet's voice echoed in his memory. One chance. And Eliab made a choice. Eliab did not answer right away. The stranger stood very still, like he already knew the answer. The oil lamp flickered between them, throwing shadows on the wall. Outside, the thunder grew louder, rolling across the sky like a warning. My loyalty? Eliab repeated. The stranger nodded slowly. Nothing dramatic. Just listen to me before you listen to anyone else. Eliab felt his heart beat faster. Including God. The stranger smiled, not surprised. Especially him. Eliab laughed, trying to sound brave. You talk like you know God. I do, the man said softly. Very well. That laugh died in Eliab's throat. Who are you really? Eliab asked. The man stepped closer. His voice dropped low. Someone who has seen many young men like you. Strong. Hungry. Tired of being small. Eliab looked away. I worked for this. Yes, the man said quickly. And you deserve more. Those words felt warm. Deserve. No one had ever said that to him before. What kind of more? Eliab asked. The man's eyes shone. The kind where doors open when you walk in. The kind where people listen when you speak. The kind where you never have to beg God for anything again. Eliab's mouth went dry. I don't beg God, he said. The man chuckled. You used to. Eliab stiffened. How do you know that? The man waved his hand as if it didn't matter. What matters is this. God gave you rules. I give you results. Silence filled the room. Eliab thought of his parents' small house. Of dirt under his nails. Of prayers that never seemed to change anything. What do I have to do? He asked quietly. The stranger smiled wider. Just agree. To what? Eliab asked. That when the time comes, you will choose my way over his. Eliab hesitated. Thunder cracked loudly, shaking the walls. Eliab jumped. The man tilted his head. Afraid? No. Eliab said too fast. Good, the man replied. Fear belongs to people who obey. Eliab clenched his fists. Fine. The man's eyes gleamed. Say it. I agree, Eliab said. The room felt suddenly colder. The man stepped back. Good choice. What's your name? Eliab asked. The man paused at the door. You may call me many things, he said. But you already know who I am. And then he was gone. The door shut quietly. Eliab stood alone, his heart racing. What did I just do? He whispered. But nothing answered. The next morning, everything changed. People who once ignored Eliab now greeted him first. His work increased. His pay doubled. Opportunities came faster than he could think. This is working, Eliab told himself. He moved into a better place. He ate better food. He wore fine clothes. He began to speak boldly, even to older men. You're rising fast, one man said to him in the market. Eliab smiled. I know how to choose wisely. He stopped thinking about God altogether. Until one night, a dream came. Eliab stood in a wide field. The sky was red. The ground cracked beneath his feet. A voice called his name. Eliab. He turned. A figure stood far away, shining softly. "Who are you?" Eliab asked. The figure did not move closer. "You know?" Eliab felt something tighten in his chest. "Why are you here?" "Because you were given one chance," the voice said. "And you are walking away from it." "I'm doing fine," Eliab said defensively. "I'm successful." The figure's voice was gentle. "At what cost?" Eliab opened his mouth to answer, and woke up. His body was covered in sweat. "It's just a dream," he said, wiping his face. But sleep did not return. Days passed, then weeks. The more Eliab gained, the more empty he felt. The laughter around him sounded hollow. The nights grew longer. One evening, he passed a small gathering near the city gate. A man was speaking. His voice was calm but strong. "God is patient," the man said. "But patience is not permission." Eliab stopped walking. "He gives warnings because he loves," the man continued. "But love does not force." Eliab's chest tightened. A woman near him whispered, "That's the prophet from the countryside." Eliab's breath caught. The prophet's eyes suddenly lifted. They locked onto Eliab. The crowd faded away. It felt like the prophet was speaking only to him. "You were given one chance," the prophet said loudly. "And heaven is still watching." People murmured. Eliab's face burned. He turned and walked away quickly. That night, the stranger returned. "You heard him," the stranger said casually, sitting as if he owned the place. "He's lying," Eliab snapped. The man raised an eyebrow. "Is he?" Eliab hesitated. "Why does it feel heavy?" The stranger smiled thinly. "Because obedience feels heavy to the weak." "I'm not weak," Eliab said. "Then prove it," the man replied. "How?" "There is a man in this city," the stranger said. "He stands in your way. Remove him." Eliab stared. "Remove how?" The man leaned closer. "Use your influence. Break his name. Take what he guards." "That's wrong," Eliab whispered. The man's voice hardened. "Wrong according to who?" Eliab shook his head. "God." The man slammed his hand on the table. "You chose already." Silence followed. Eliab's heart pounded. "If I don't do this." The man smiled coldly. "Everything you gained will fall." Eliab closed his eyes. One chance. He remembered the field in his dream. The voice. The warning. But he also saw his fine clothes. His coins. His new life. "I'll do it," he said. The man stood. Heaven just leaned closer. The next days were chaos. Eliab spread lies. He twisted words. He watched as the man's name fell apart. People praised Eliab. "You're powerful," they said. But every praise felt like a stone on his chest. Then the judgment came. Not from people. From God. One morning, Eliab woke up unable to stand. His strength was gone. His body shook. Doctors came. None helped. His money vanished as fast as it came. Friends disappeared. Eliab lay alone on his bed, weak and afraid. "God," he whispered through tears. "I was wrong." No answer. Days passed. Then, one night, the prophet came. He stood at the foot of the bed. "You used your chance," the prophet said softly. Eliab cried. "Is it too late?" The prophet looked at him for a long time. "Heaven was shocked," he said. "Not by what you did, but by what you might still do." Eliab sobbed. "Tell me what to do." The prophet leaned closer. "Choose again. Even now." Eliab's voice broke. "I choose God." The room filled with stillness. And heaven waited to see if he meant it. The room stayed silent. Eliab waited for something to happen. A light. A voice. A feeling. Anything. Nothing came. The prophet stood still, watching him closely. "I chose God," Eliab whispered again, his throat dry. "Did he hear me?" The prophet answered gently. "God always hears. The question is whether you will still choose him when it costs you." Eliab's heart sank. "I already lost everything." The prophet shook his head. "Not everything." Eliab frowned. "What do I still have?" The prophet looked him in the eyes. "Your will." Eliab swallowed hard. His body was weak. His hands shook. His voice barely worked. "What does God want now?" he asked. The prophet did not answer right away. He turned and looked toward the small window. Night air drifted in. The city sounded far away, like a life Eliab no longer belonged to. "God wants you to confess," the prophet said at last. "Not to him alone. To the people you wronged." Eliab's eyes widened. "Everyone." "Yes," the prophet said. "Publicly." Eliab's chest tightened. "They'll laugh at me." "Yes," the prophet replied. "They'll hate me. Some will. They'll destroy what little is left of my name." The prophet nodded. "That name already died." Tears rolled down Eliab's face. Why would God ask this? Because pride is what brought you here, the prophet said softly. And humility is the only road back. Eliab turned his face into his pillow and cried. I'm scared, he said. The prophet placed a hand on his shoulder. So was David. So was Peter. So was every man God restored. Eliab lifted his head slowly. And God still used them. The prophet's eyes warmed. More than before. Silence settled again. Tomorrow, the prophet said. At the city gate. Eliab nodded weakly. The prophet turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. What? Eliab asked. This will not heal you immediately, the prophet said. Obedience comes before healing. Eliab closed his eyes. I understand. But inside, he wasn't sure he did. Morning came too fast. 2 men helped Eliab stand. Every step hurt. His legs trembled. His head spun. As they walked toward the city gate, people stared. That's him, someone whispered. Wasn't he powerful? Another said. Look at him now. Eliab wanted to turn back. To hide. To disappear. But the prophet walked ahead, steady and calm. At the city gate, a crowd gathered. Traders. Elders. Workers. People Eliab once ruled with his words. The prophet raised his staff. This man has something to say, he announced. All eyes turned to Eliab. His mouth went dry. Say it, he told himself. Choose again. Eliab took a breath. I lied, he said. The crowd murmured. I stole honor that was not mine. Eliab continued. I destroyed a man's name to lift myself. A woman gasped. Eliab's voice shook. I chose power over God. Anger rose from the crowd. You're wicked, someone shouted. You deserve what you got. Eliab bowed his head. You're right. The prophet stepped forward. He confesses because God still calls. The crowd laughed bitterly. God, a man scoffed. Where was God when he crushed others? Eliab lifted his head. God was watching. And waiting. Silence fell. Eliab took a step forward, then another. Pain shot through his legs, but he stood tall. I return what I took, he said. All of it. Gasps spread through the crowd. My money. My influence. My place. The prophet's eyes widened slightly. You don't have to, someone began. I do, Eliab said firmly. Because God gave me one chance, and I wasted it. He paused. But if he gives me another, Eliab said, his voice breaking, I will not waste it again. The crowd grew quiet. Something shifted in the air. Eliab felt it. The prophet lifted his hands. God sees, he declared. And God responds. Suddenly, Eliab's legs stopped shaking. He blinked. Strength slowly returned to his arms. His breathing steadied. Whispers spread. He's standing. He was sick. Eliab looked down at his hands. They were steady. Tears filled his eyes. The prophet leaned close and whispered. Heaven just answered. But the test was not over. That night, the stranger came again. You embarrassed yourself, the stranger said coldly. Eliab stood tall now. I told the truth. You gave up everything, the man hissed. Eliab nodded. Yes. The stranger's face twisted. You could still have it all. Eliab shook his head. Not your way. The man stepped closer, anger burning in his eyes. God is slow. I am fast. Eliab met his gaze. God is enough. The room shook. The stranger screamed in rage and vanished. Eliab fell to his knees. It's over, he whispered. From heaven, a decision was made. Eliab stayed on his knees long after the room stopped shaking. His hands pressed against the floor. His heart beat slowly now, not in fear, but in awe. It's really over, he whispered. The air felt lighter. For the first time in a long time, his thoughts were quiet. At dawn, the prophet returned. He looked at Eliab carefully, as if seeing him for the first time. You stood, the prophet said. You chose again. Eliab nodded. I almost didn't. But you did, the prophet replied. And heaven noticed. Eliab frowned. Heaven noticed? The prophet smiled gently. Do you know what shocks heaven? Eliab shook his head. Not sin, the prophet said. Heaven has seen that many times. Then what? Eliab asked. Repentance, the prophet answered. Real repentance. Eliab swallowed. After all I did, God still wants me. The prophet's voice was firm. God restores what surrender gives back. Eliab felt tears rise again. What happens now? Now, the prophet said. You walk a harder road. Eliab blinked. Harder? Yes, the prophet said calmly. Because God will use you. Eliab laughed weakly. Use me for what? The prophet stepped closer. To warn others who stand where you once stood. Days passed. Eliab did not return to his old life. He did not seek power. He did not chase influence. He worked with his hands again. People watched him closely. Some mocked him. He fell from the top, they said. Others whispered. He changed. One afternoon, a young boy ran up to him. "Are you Eliab?" the boy asked. "Yes," Eliab replied. "My father says you were powerful once," the boy said. "What happened?" Eliab knelt to the boy's level. "I chose myself." "And then?" the boy asked. "And then I chose God," Eliab said. The boy frowned. Which one was better? Eliab smiled. "The second choice saved me." Word spread. People began to listen. Not because Eliab was strong, but because he was honest. One evening, the prophet called Eliab aside. "There is something God wants you to do," he said. Eliab nodded. "I'm ready." "There is a village beyond the hills," the prophet said. "They are walking the same path you walked." Eliab's heart tightened. "What should I tell them?" The prophet answered simply. "Tell them the truth." So Eliab went. He stood before strangers and told them everything. How ambition blinded him. How power lied to him. How obedience hurt, but healed. Some laughed. Some walked away. But some cried. One man fell to his knees. "I thought God was done with me," he said. Eliab helped him up. "So did I." That night, Eliab prayed again. Not long prayers. Simple ones. "Thank you. Help me. Keep my heart." From heaven, angels watched. Not because Eliab was perfect, but because he was surrendered. And that shocked heaven more than anything else. The village beyond the hills was quieter than the city. No tall walls. No loud markets. Just small houses, dusty paths, and tired faces. Eliab felt something heavy in his chest as he walked through it. "These people look like my family," he whispered. The prophet nodded. Because pride and pain reach everywhere. That evening, the villagers gathered. Not because Eliab was famous, but because curiosity spreads faster than truth. Eliab stood before them. His hands shook. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "What if I fail again?" he whispered to the prophet. The prophet answered softly, "Then you get up again. But today speak." Eliab breathed in. "I came here because I once thought I knew better than God," he said. The people listened. "I wanted more," Eliab continued. "More money, more power, more respect." A man in the crowd nodded slowly. "So I stopped listening," Eliab said. "And everything I gained took something from me." "What did it take?" a woman asked. Eliab paused. "My peace, my sleep, my joy, my soul." The crowd grew quiet. "I thought God was holding me back," Eliab said. "But he was protecting me." A young man stepped forward. "What if it's already too late for us?" Eliab shook his head. "If you can still hear his voice, it's not too late." That night, many prayed. Not loud prayers. Honest ones. And heaven leaned in again. Days turned into weeks. Eliab stayed. He worked with the people. He ate with them. He listened more than he spoke. One night, the prophet said, "God is about to test you again." Eliab's heart jumped. "Test me how?" The prophet looked serious. "By giving you influence again." Eliab's stomach tightened. "I don't want it." The prophet nodded. "That's why you can be trusted." News spread. Leaders from nearby towns came to listen to Eliab. They offered him position. "You have wisdom," they said. Eliab remembered the stranger's voice. Power. Influence. A name. He closed his eyes. "I will speak," Eliab said. "But I will not rule." Some walked away disappointed. Others stayed. One night, Eliab dreamed again. He stood in the same field as before. But this time, the sky was clear. The shining figure stepped closer. "You chose well," the voice said. Eliab fell to his knees. "I'm still afraid." "That is good," the voice replied. "Fear keeps you near." When Eliab woke, his heart was calm. Years passed. Eliab grew older. His hair grayed. His hands hardened. But his voice stayed steady. Parents brought children to hear him. "Listen," he would say. "God's way hurts less than your own." Some believed. Some didn't. But heaven remembered. One day, the prophet returned, very old now. "My time is near," he said. Eliab's eyes filled. "You changed my life." The prophet smiled. "No, God did. I just spoke." The prophet placed his hand on Eliab's head. "You were given one chance," he said. "And you shocked heaven." Eliab whispered, "By failing." The prophet shook his head. By returning, the prophet closed his eyes and went to rest. Eliab stood alone under the sky. He looked up. "Thank you," he whispered, and heaven answered with peace. Eliab lived many more years after the prophet died. Not as a king, not as a ruler, not as a rich man, but his name traveled farther than gold ever could. People who never met him still spoke about him. There was a man, they would say, who almost lost everything, but chose God when it mattered most. Children asked their parents about him. Was he perfect? They asked. No, the parents replied. That's why his story matters. Eliab never forgot the night God gave him one chance. Sometimes, when he sat alone at sunset, he would close his eyes and remember the road to the city. The prophet's voice. The choice. One step, he would whisper. That's all it was. One step toward himself. One step back toward God. Late in his life, Eliab became weak again. Not from judgment this time, but from age. He lay on a simple mat in a quiet house. The room smelled of oil and wood. Outside, birds sang. A young man sat beside him. "Tell me again," the young man said. "Why did God forgive you?" Eliab smiled faintly. "Because I stopped pretending." The young man leaned closer. What shocked heaven? Eliab's voice was soft but clear. That I came back, when I could have stayed proud. The young man swallowed. "What if I mess up?" Eliab lifted his tired hand and placed it on the young man's arm. "Listen to me," he said. "God is not shocked by your failure. He is watching for your return." Tears filled the young man's eyes. Eliab looked toward the ceiling, his breathing slow now. "God gave me one chance," he whispered. "But mercy gave me another." As the sun dipped low, Eliab closed his eyes. And this time, heaven did not wait. Angels rejoiced. Not because a great man arrived, but because a surrendered heart came home. And that is why this story was written. Not to tell you about Eliab, but to remind you of yourself. Because somewhere, right now, you are standing on a road. Behind you is what God has been whispering. Ahead of you is what your heart is chasing. And heaven is watching. Not to punish you, but to see what you will choose. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story God may use to speak to you. Like this video so it can reach someone else who needs a second chance. And comment below. Tell us where you are standing right now. Because sometimes, one choice is all it takes to shock heaven.